Moonstar, a Sailor Moon podcast is presented by the Vintage Anime Video Network. Visit us at www.vintageanimevideo.com.
Oh, it's the Guardians of the Lake. They have quite a story.
Huh? What about them?
It's an ancient legend. There was a young man who fell in love with a water sprite who lived in the lake. But there was a girl from his town who also loved him. And when she saw them together, she got so jealous she turned into a vicious monster and attacked everything in sight. The only way the young man and the water sprite could stop her was by harnessing the power of their love to seal her beneath the lake. Their energy all gone, they rose into the sky and became two happy stars guarding the lake. And the jealous sprite was doomed to be miserable forever.
They sealed the spirit in this lake?
We'd better head back or you'll catch cold.
Oh, Mom!
Hello, and welcome back to Moonstar, a Sailor Moon podcast. I'm Alex, one of your hosts, and I don't want to take a lot of time on the intro today, but I do want to set up our clip, which is from Tiffy Starchild. And I came across this accidentally looking at Facebook because I am, old, and that's where we are, I guess. And I just thought that she phrased a lot of things really well when it came to the sort of purist stance some Sailor Moon fans can take. And if you are a fan of the Deke universe, you probably experience this more than people who just are not that familiar with it. So I felt like our audience would really appreciate her little rant that she went on. And I'm going to go ahead and play all of that for you. If you want to see the video, I will hopefully find a way to link it in the description. If I can't, just look for Tiffy Starchild Sailor Moon, and I think you'll probably find it. But yeah, shout out to you, and here she is.
I need the Sailor Moon purists to relax. Because the way y'all clench up when people don't use the Japanese names, you are gonna give yourself a hernia. You are gonna give yourself mononucleosis. Your cortisol is gonna skyrocket. Some of us grew up on the Americanized Deke version, okay? It was literally all that we had access to. We knew Usagi as Serena and Mamoto as Darien. She still deserved better. Yeah, I said it. We had Lita instead of Makoto and Mina instead of Minako. Amy instead of Ami and Ray. Thank you, girl, for being consistent, because Ray was always Ray. A lot of us couldn't tell you what a sin she was, but in our hearts, we were ride or die scouts for the Moon Princess. The mission was the same. Play with somebody else. Chibi Usa was Rini. And let me tell y'all, we didn't even see her pull the blicky out in her first episode when she dropped in on him. They edited that out smooth. We didn't see it. And Sailor Moon's little brother, that was Sammy, and he was cruising for a bruising. And don't get me started on Molly and Nephlite. Okay, we were there. Babes, just be happy that us 90s kids eventually learned one day that Uranus and Neptune were not in fact cousins, even though they really had us going with that one. And some of us were shocked when we learned the truth, but it made a whole lot more sense. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of us only had access to what we were shown on television. And for a little kid Tiffy growing up in Southeast San Diego, printing out copies of my favorite fanfic, Chacky Yellow No Name, and getting whatever unofficial merchandise I could find at the weekend swap meet, Sailor Moon was my everything, my complete personality. To this day. Learning the full lore, finally having access to that was incredible. But what we call them doesn't change that. We know the stories, we know the legends, sometimes the names just stick. It's what we grew up on. And there's a little bit of nostalgia. And at the end of the day, people are gonna use whichever version of the name that they want to. Do you know why? Because it doesn't matter. And who's gonna stop us? All that to say, using either name, the American ones or the Japanese ones, doesn't make you more or less of a fan than anybody else. It's just giving gatekeeping. And that is not very love or justice. Whose side are you really on? And I was gonna include the original tweet that inspired this specific video, but I guess baby girl got her account suspended? I'm assuming for something unrelated to Sailor Moon, but damn.
This week on Moonstar, a Sailor Moon podcast. Well, actually, I guess, would you consider the Barbie movie like an LGBT event? Kind of. What's the last movie you saw in theaters?
Oh, it's been quite a while. It's probably a horror movie. It was probably The Menu. It's with Anya Taylor-Joy. I'm sure if you saw her, you would know who that is.
We haven't recorded in a while. It's been a couple weeks. I've had family in town, and it's been crazy on our end a little. What's going on with you?
Well, I think the last time we recorded would have been before Labor Day, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So you've probably done a few things since then. What's been going on?
Well, I think I've only done one interview, because the last interview I did was on the 31st. But then I had the weekend of Labor Day, I went out for... because the main gay club that I go to had another block party for...
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's where I sent you I sent you that picture of me beating Big Dipper.
That's right. That's where that was from.
Yeah.
See, I can't remember if we recorded after that already.
No.
So what was that like?
Oh, it was really fun. He just sang several songs, and then anybody that wanted to could take a picture with him and meet him right off the stage after the show.
Oh, I think some places do a fall pride, don't they? I know there's like Oktoberfest or something. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. But yeah, that's exciting. I haven't been to... Well, actually, I guess, would you consider the Barbie movie like an LGBT event? Kind of. I don't think it's specifically one. I think it's also, for women and for men and whoever. But I think a lot of gay men and probably women have their own relationship to Barbie. And I went to see that in theaters. Have you seen it?
Unfortunately, Chris's audio for this brief segment was lost. Enjoy the rest of Alex's Barbie movie rant.
I heard that there's mixed reviews as far as how men in general are taking it, and some people feel like it's man-hating, and some people think that's crazy. I honestly, first thing I have to say is I love that movie. It was so much fun, and to me, it has a similar vibe of Mean Girls because I saw that in theaters too, where at the time with Mean Girls, it was I remember telling people this movie is freaking fantastic, and they were just it was just a good movie, whatever. And it's one of the most quoted, iconic, movies in that genre. You know what I mean? To this day. And I think it's because it hit so many cultural notes at that time so well. And I think Barbie is similar for two reasons. One, because it's one of the last movies that got out into theaters before the most recent writer's strike thing started. So there's going to be a gap, I guess, for a while before we get... new things. I don't know. I'm not exactly up to date on what's going on with that. But there is something to that. So it sort of was kind of the last chance to see something new and big for a while. But then also, it's got such a profound connection to women, gay men, gay women, trans people of all types. You know what I mean? Barbie has just been so entrenched in American and North American culture, probably world culture, for so long that it was how do you not go? And I was not really sure what to expect, because you haven't seen it. What vibe do you think it would be when you see the movie?
While we don't know what Chris said here, I feel it's safe to assume that most people would expect typical Barbie vibes from this movie, whatever that means.
Yeah. And there's a lot of really it's kind of layered, because I think if kids see it, they'll miss probably a lot of the deeper meanings, and that's totally fine. And then if you're a woman, you're going to relate to different parts of it. When I say woman, I'm speaking cisgender, you know what I mean? Versus I think a trans female would have a different experience versus a gay man versus whoever, because we all have different relationships to it. And it speaks to all of us, I think, in a different way. When I was watching it, I was trying to see like, why are people complaining about it?
Yeah.
And I think I isolated the one, and it's a really, really small detail that makes it, like, if you want to take it that way, I see how you could latch on to that and be a little bit frustrated. And I personally don't. I still love the movie, and I think it was kind of a real moment that they did this. But there, spoiler alert, skip ahead if you don't want more details about Barbie. But so there's this part when the Kens like take over Barbie world while she's gone, right? And when they come back, all the Barbies are brainwashed essentially into being like the real world, old, like ditzy, like I guess generic female counterpart to a straight man. And they have to concoct a plan to like save Barbie world or take it back or whatever. And that part's fine. But the detail that they included in their plan, which is where I think a lot of men are taking issue, is they wanted the men to get as happy as possible, let them believe that they were in these beautiful relationships, that they had some power. Because remember, in Barbie Land, the men were it's like flipped from the real world. So the hierarchy is men are on the bottom, women are on top there before, right? And the idea of wait until he's at his happiest and then take it all away, that was the like part of the plan. Personally, I thought that like I could see why a man might not love that. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Because it feels almost like one step too malicious. Like you could have just like taken back Barbie Land anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't think you had to like make it hurt so much on purpose. But also, I think when people are hurt, when people feel like something's been taken away from them, when they feel like they're losing everything, they kind of do things like that too. To me, that was the only detail where I was like, if you're gonna take umbrage with this, I guess that would be it, you know? But the thing is, if you watch to the end of the movie, they kind of address that, where it's like Barbie and him and Ken are having a conversation, and they kind of both realize that they were wrong for their approach in the end. And like Barbie was saying, well, you know, when I was in control, it didn't, like every day didn't have to be girls' day, you know, it didn't have to be so absolute. And I think that like that's why it's important to get to the end, because like you could get stuck on that one detail in the middle and decide you hate the movie, but they sort of address it. And they were like, okay, so that it's there for a reason. You get what I mean? Because they both had to make mistakes to realize they were wrong. But I don't know. I think it was so good. The music is great. The costuming is great. Margot Robbie's acting is phenomenal. I suggest you see it, honestly. Also, I saw The Blue Beetle. It's like a new superhero movie, and it was okay. I went because I was like excited about the movies after going to Barbie, and you know, so I was like, let's go to another one. But my main issue with it was twofold. One, the main actor, who was great, is completely covered by the suit for like, I don't know, at least 70% of the movie. So he's like not in it, technically. Oh. It's like his voice, you know what I mean? But there's so much CGI and all that. I'm kind of like, I couldn't help but think, as the lead in a superhero movie, how bummed would you be to like not really be in it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then the other part was, I thought it was great because there really wasn't a romance going on. And then right at the end, like in the last minute, he kisses this random girl that's been there the whole time. And I'm just like, oh. I'm like, oh, I guess so. Okay. And because I was like, I don't know about you, but I think sometimes romance doesn't need to always be part of the story.
Yeah.
You know? And I was kind of like, oh, cool. Maybe this superhero movie, they're just like, it's just about the superhero stuff. But no, they had to put it in last minute. It was still fun. I would say watch it streaming, though. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't go to the theater on that one. What's the last movie you saw in theaters?
Oh, it's been quite a while. It was probably a horror movie. It was probably The Menu, or yeah, I think that was probably it.
The Menu. I haven't even heard of that.
It came out. It's with Anya Taylor-Joy. I'm sure if you saw her, you would know who that is. and a handful of other big people are in it. It's like, it's all couples, I think, that have money, and then they take I don't know where they live, like in the US, but they take a ferry to this dining event, and then it just, like this tasting, multiple course dinner, and it just ends up being a situation where they're all trapped there and they can't leave, and but it's like a really unique, it doesn't go how you would expect it to go. Yeah.
There's a movie on Netflix that sounds similar to that, where they're like, I think it's a Japanese movie where they're all at this table and they have to like do these weird things. Do you know what I'm talking about? Maybe, yeah. I don't. It's probably similar to that. The last horror movie I saw in theaters was the Reaping, I think. Have you seen that?
I think I know what it is. Maybe.
I think it was like 2008 or 2007.
Oh.
Oh my gosh, this is so long ago. I don't go to the movie theater for horror too, because I like to be able to pause and like run away. It's too scary. But that movie I actually really loved for some reason, because it wasn't gory or anything, and it was very just like creepy, culty. There were some biblical tones that were done really well. And it was like, I don't know. If you haven't seen it, I think you would probably enjoy it if you like horror. But yeah. All right. Let's get into this week's episode.
Today on Sailor Moon, my family and I are off for a restful vacation at a luxury resort. But there's no time for rest when a monstrous creature arises from the lake, and she's got more on her mind than a fish fry. Can I save my family without revealing I'm Sailor Moon? I'll show you.
What is the Japanese name?
It's very related to the folklore of the episode. It's the legendary lake Yokai, the bond of Usagi's family.
Okay. I kind of figured there was a specific legend, like a real one associated with this episode that's not necessarily in the Deke, but they just call it Last Resort. It was like a punny title. For the Deke titles, it's fine. But I think I like the Japanese one better this week. We've been doing the Card Captors podcast now for a few episodes, and something that came up on the last one was how the original Sailor Moon dub is very 90s. Like, we've talked about that before. There's a lot of 90s jargon in it and all that. And something we're noticing in the Nelvana Card Captors dub is that it's completely the opposite. They almost did their best to remove any sort of time, like, thing that would tie it to the time period intentionally. And I just thought that was interesting because I never thought that much about it. And I think both ways of dubbing have their merits, because the Card Captors one will kind of like, you won't be like, wait, what does that mean? What's that 90s logo or like lingo or whatever at all when you're watching it? It'll kind of like always make sense. But then with the Sailor Moon one, we have it serves the additional purpose of preserving that time period for us in a medium that we as Sailor Moon fans like love and get to keep forever. You know what I mean? Because we're at the point now where it's like we have the Deke and the Cloverway dub, then we have the original Japanese, then you have every other language that it's been dubbed in the 90s, then you have the Viz dub, then you have Crystal. You know what I mean? So you have whatever option you want with it. And if you want to experience Sailor Moon in the 90s, you can, which is kind of cool, I think. Mm-hmm. So that was just like, if you are following along on the Cod Captors one, that episode will come out soon. But I thought that was an interesting delineation because it is distinctly like worlds apart when you compare them in that way. So even though they were dubbed both dubbed in Canada, both dubbed around the same time with the same intention for television, you know? So I think that's kind of cool. But yeah, how do we open this episode?
It's Luna waking up to an empty house, and then she goes downstairs and sees that the family left a note saying that they were going out of town for most of the weekend, and then it cuts to the Tsukino family driving to a mountain, like a pretty mountainous area, and they're all just talking about talking about the trip and stuff.
This is great. We haven't been on a family vacation in ages.
But Mom, really, hot springs, aren't they for over-the-edge wackos? Oh, I hate that stupid thing. Hey, you! Oh. Hey, give it back. It's my game. Mom, Serena took my game. My locket. Weirdo.
What's with that locket? Did some boy give it to you, Serena?
Yeah, you could say that.
What? Really? You're going home with some boy, and you haven't even told us?
No, you've got it all wrong.
She probably got it from Melvin.
Oh, Melvin. Oh, well then. Now there's a boy for you, Serena.
Dad, like even. Wow, this is great.
I think they might have cut out the part with Luna at the beginning for some reason. Probably a timing thing, because it just opens on them in the car, from what I remember.
Oh.
But yeah, I thought this was a great way to open the scene. Some details I noticed right away that made me immediately feel like a kid again was Serena and Sammy are in the back seat, of course, because they're kids. The parents are driving, but then Sammy's on like a Game Boy, you know?
Yeah.
And that's very 90s road trip vibes. They, of course, are fighting and stuff, and the Star Locket comes out, and then there's this great moment with her dad, like, freaking out that she might be talking to a boy. Does she tell him it's Melvin in the Japanese version? Like, that gave it to her?
No, she doesn't say that, but I'm sure besides that, the scene is the same.
Oh, yeah, that was her excuse. And then her dad's suddenly like, oh, well, if it's Melvin, then that's fine. I thought it was so funny, the way they did that in the English one. And then we get a great 90s moment right here of Serena being like,
Dad, like even.
You know, then that's a very banter, like 90s parent-sibling banter. And that kind of stuff just makes me happy every time it happens. You were mentioning the scenery. Who is the animator this time?
It's actually the worst one. It's Ando.
I was kind of suspecting it wasn't one of the best, but that being said, again, there are a lot of aspects of this episode that I think are done very well. I think where I see his weakness is in a lot of the character design, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's usually where it is for him.
Yeah, but all of the scenery is great. I thought the way a lot of it was, the movements were done fairly well. It was just sort of like some of the shapes of the faces and stuff were a little odd.
Yeah.
And they arrive at this lake, like you were talking about. It looks like it's autumn. Like, the leaves are brown. Most of them are off the trees. And then we cut right back to the Negaverse, because apparently, of course, Queen Beryl has discovered this lake and that it possesses some type of energy.
Moonstar, a Sailor Moon podcast, will return after these messages. And now, more Moonstar, a Sailor Moon podcast.
So you detected powerful energy emissions emanating from this lake.
It's exceptionally strong and similar to our power, but there's something very different about it.
Yes. Prince Darien, investigate this immediately.
Yes.
Queen Beryl. Prince Darien's been acting strangely lately. Do you think it's possible he's found out all his memories have been erased?
I don't know, but I don't want to take any chances, Malachite. I want you to keep a close eye on him.
As you wish, McQueen.
Prince Darien must remain under my complete control. He is key to my retrieving the Imperium Crystal.
Who does she send to investigate it?
Mamoru. Ending Neon.
Yeah, and then Kunzite to keep an eye on him to make sure he doesn't, mess it up, I guess. And we cut from there to a scene, one of the first scenes in the hot springs. We get several. And the first detail I noticed, I think we've seen it before, but I enjoy the way when she's puts her hair up, she does the it loops back up into the odongos on top of her head. I just always thought that was so cute. And then they make a comment of how hot springs smell bad because of the sulfur. Did you know that?
Well, no, because I guess it probably depends on where you are, but they don't say anything like that in the Japanese.
So I didn't know if they did or not, but I think this was probably where they were like, let's have a teaching moment. Because I think they had to include something educational every episode. Thanks for the science class, Sailor Moon's mom, I think is the one who told us that. And what happens while they're in the hot spring?
Well, in the first scene anyway, it's just a fight, not really a fight, but like a light fight about her brother doesn't want to get in, doesn't want to share being in the bath with, like, everybody. And then Usagi is just giving him shit for it. I don't know if that's the same in the English for that first scene or not, but...
I think they sort of chop that down, because they do the, thing about the sulfur, and then Sammy steals her towel for a second. And then when he's, running away with it, he sees someone on the beach, and that's when we get moved forward. Oh, I was going to ask you something. Oh, have you ever been in a hot spring?
I haven't been in one like this.
Me either, but I know people who have, had the opportunity, because they went places like Japan. And it's one of those things that I would definitely love to do at least once, just to see.
Mm-hmm.
But who does Sammy see down on the beach, by the way?
Well, it ends up being Mamoru's, you can't really tell from that far, but then it ends up being Mamoru once, Usagi goes down later.
Does she think it's him when she sees the person originally?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I was wondering if they'd changed that or not. Yeah, so she runs down because she thinks she sees Darien or Mamoru there, and ends up at a statue. And then he turns up behind her when this locket is playing, because it starts playing music. And then starts in the English one, it's this weird conversation where he's just like, oh, I don't know who you are. And she's like, you don't remember this? And he's like, no, I don't even know my name. Was it what did they talk about in the Japanese?
It's similar to that. She's just asking him, don't you remember our relationship and what my name is? And then he just says the same thing. It's the same thing, but just less campy.
Okay, I think it might have been the delivery or something, but it just felt weird in the English one where he was like, who's Darien? I don't know who that is. I'm like, what?
Huh? There's my locket again. Huh? Oh. Darien?
There's something about that music that seems familiar.
Come on, wake up, Darien. It's me, Serena. Please. Remember?
Darien? Serena? I've never heard these names before. What is it that you want?
Never heard? How can you say that? Oh, can't you remember me?
Serena!
Mom? Oh, Darien.
Are you all right, Serena? We were worried about you.
I didn't know that was part of the brainwashing, you know what I mean? But anyway, who ends up finding her there after he goes away?
Ikuko, her mom, comes out, and then she starts telling her about the reason why that statue is there. It's about, I don't know how similar it is in English. I'm sure it's close enough, but in Japanese, it was a couple of a god and a goddess that came down from the heavens, and while they were visiting that area of Earth, there was a human girl that fell for the god and got really jealous, and then her jealous rage ended up turning her into a monster that was tied to the lake, and then the the pair of gods ended up using all of their power to seal her inside the bottom of the lake. The legend is that as long as the statue is there and fine, then nothing bad will happen. Yeah.
It's different. It's similar. Like, they kept the vibe of jealousy, but they kind of messed around with it a little bit. I'm going to actually put the story of it from Barbara Radecki in here, who does Serena's mom's voice. And just this little scene made me appreciate her in the role of Serena's mom so much. I think she probably scored the role of Neptune based on how well she did in seasons 1 and 2 as this character. And yeah, I just really enjoyed Serena's mom all around. We get a lot of mothering moments with her in this episode, you know what I mean? And it's something that is sort of interesting to me, because I don't know if I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but I'm adopted. And so I've always sort of connected to this weird thing where Serena, like Sailor Moon, Princess Serenity has her mother on the moon, which was Queen Serenity, right? But then she's reborn and she has this like human family. So it's almost like she's adopted. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, it's not her real mom technically, but it's her Earth mom. Like, it's weird. And so I don't know, like, Serena's family to me has always sort of been, in a strange way, like an adoptive family sort of representation, but not. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I was going to ask if do you know, like, have you tried to meet your real parents, or do you know anything about them?
I put my information into the system thing, but nothing ever came back. And so what I know is that I have biological siblings who I've never met, which is the biggest bummer to me, because I've always wanted to have, like, you know, siblings.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how to begin finding them. But so there's that. And then I know that, like, I think what I was told, that my parents were getting divorced and that's why I was put up for adoption, you know, so that's all I really know about it. And also that my mom was really young. So, like, but that's it. And
is that,
go ahead.
Is your real last name like the last name that they gave you, or is it something else?
It's something else. Yeah. And then my first name is given by my adoptive parents as well, because I was adopted as an infant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I never had any experience with my biological family. We could get into that more someday. It's a weird thing to talk about. But yeah, so I always, I think, connected to her family in that unique way, and I'm sure anyone who comes from a non-traditional family might be able to relate to that in some form, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I like that we get a lot of development with her Earth family in this episode. What happens when... Oh, wait, I'm skipping ahead. Hold on. Can you hear the lawn people through my microphone?
No.
Okay, good. I was like, am I going to have to cut all this leaf blower out? Okay, what does evil Darien do when he is left alone at the lake after he overhears the legend?
He just uses his power to awaken the lake monster from the bottom of the lake, and then it comes out and starts just attacking, like following after Usagi's family. And the only thing that it says is give him back, which is obviously referencing the god that she fell in love with like 1 billion years ago.
Yeah. In the English one, it's just kind of like she's out of control with jealousy, so she attacks anyone. It's sort of the vibe they want us to get from her. How would you describe the way this monster looks?
I don't know. It's unique for Sailor Moon, but it also looks similar to a lot of the early season monsters. It's a woman with a kind of like cat eye demonic eyes and big sharp teeth and long pink hair, and they have the body of kind of a beefed up mermaid, I guess.
I think it's supposed to be a lamia. Do you know what that is?
Yep. Yeah.
I think that it's like a combination of a lamia and a water dragon. I think it's supposed to be. I think it's probably an actual like folklore monster in Japan. I don't know that to be true, but it seems designed in a way that it's like replicating something, you know. But I think it is the first time we see this sort of body type of monster. But the next time I want to say we see a lot of this is in the Sailor Moon R movie, you know, when it's most of them are kind of like that. But I thought this was a unique, cool monster. I love the color scheme. She's got the pink hair, the fangs, like you were saying, the creepy yellow eyes. And after she attacks Darien, we cut back to Serena running off alone in the woods. What happens when she's, like, trying to get... I guess she's like, where is she going? She's just running?
I think so.
Okay, what happens while she's running?
Well, she's trying to get away to transform into Sailor Moon.
Duh.
And then Mamoru throws a rose because the only reason he, according to him, that he stopped this time was because he doesn't want the monster attacking innocent people. Mm-hmm. And he tells the family to escape. And then, while that's happening, Usagi transforms. All of a sudden, out of the blue, it's like the rest of the girls show up transformed.
Yeah. Which, one thing I don't want to pass over is there is this great moment before the Rose where her dad tries to defend them and almost gets messed up by the monster. And I had to give it up for her dad. Just like, hey, that takes guts, because what was he going to do?
Moonstar, a Sailor Moon podcast, will return after these messages. And now, more Moonstar, a Sailor Moon podcast.
I'm not gonna let this get to me, no way. So Darien doesn't remember me. As if. How dare he not remember me? Revenge is mine! What was that?
Your scariest nightmare!
Sea monster with bad hair!
Serena, quick, get over here right now! Come on, hurry!
No problem, Mom. I'm coming. Let's get out of here!
Come on, quickly!
Head for the trees!
Right!
All right. That's it. How dare you terrorize my family, you reject from a fish factory? Go slink back to whatever sewer you came from.
Ah, yeah, make my day, Swamp Thing. Maybe that can be another day. Let me go!
Oh, I gotta stop her.
Honey, are you all right?
Who's the guy in the cave? He should be here to help us at least. I hope.
Back off, lady! Bad form to attack innocent people.
You want to fight? I'll give you a fight!
But yeah, and then, like, yeah, the girls just showed up out of nowhere. I was like, I forgot they even were in this episode until they just appear. Because I thought it was going to be like a solo Sailor Moon moment. How does the battle go down? What happens next?
Every attack that's used, no matter what it is, that like I think the first thing that happens is Venus and Jupiter combine their attacks, and then it disintegrates the monster, but then it just rematerializes, and then Usagi does the tiara, and that does that has the same effect, and then Ray has to do, it's because Ray has to do the evil spirits be gone first, and then she does that, and then uses Fire Soul to paralyze it, and then Usagi does the escalation.
Mm-hmm. And before all of that, we get the Mercury Bubbles, which is the visual cover to get her family out, and then it allows her to transform without being seen. I think they did this for a reason, because we're coming off of, I think, is it 2 episodes without, like, a classic battle, right? In a row. Mm-hmm. And so this one, it's like literally everyone has their moment. And the thing that I liked about it, like a couple details with the animation I noticed. when we get the combination of the crescent beam and Jupiter thunder crash. First, I love that, always do. But then when it's hit, the monster is hit by it, it has this like yellow holographic effect that is so specific to this time period of anime. How would you describe it?
Why don't you say what you the idea you had first?
Well, the only thing that I can possibly think of is it's almost like if you collectible, like if you were into Pokemon cards or whatever, or Yu-Gi-Oh, and they have the holographic backgrounds. That's why I keep using that word. It feels like they added that, and which is basically foil in color, right? So it feels like they use foil or something to create this reflective effect. But then because of the way it's captured and because it's animation, it's not going to be shiny in the same way, but it's going to give a unique look. But I don't know because I'm not an animator. How do you think they do that?
I think it's a mix of, in that case, it would be a mix of CGI.
Oh, maybe. 'Cause maybe they had like very basic CGI at this point.
Yeah, there was no way to really do it differently at this time.
Because in my mind, I'm like, are they shining light specifically back, like a different color light through the back of the cell? What are they doing? It's just really cool. But I love that detail. And I missed the moon tiara attack I was really happy to see it. Did you feel like that?
Oh, you cut out a little bit.
Oh, I was saying I was just really happy to see the moon tiara attack because we haven't had it for a while.
Oh. Yeah.
And I think it's my favorite. It's just fun. After Sailor Moon uses moon healing, activation, or escalation, we get to see the true form of this monster. How would you describe her?
She looks like how a normal Japanese girl would back in feudal Japan times. Traditional clothing, kimono, and long black hair with a small headpiece, and doesn't say anything. She just waves to the girls and Mamoru, and then they wave back and goes up into the sky. Then the end of the episode is just all of the girls together in one of the hot springs, like playfully drowning Usagi.
Yeah, drowning. Yeah. And I thought this moment with her going away, in the deke they put in, she did speak, she thanks Darien without naming him. She thanks the person who freed her, which I thought was good because it highlights something where evil Darien or whatever unlocks, or Mamoru unlocks this thing with ill intentions, right? Mm-hmm. But then through the process of her being released and then in her encounter with the sailor soldiers and being healed and everything, it turns into a good thing, right? Yeah. So it highlights that like sometimes something might start negative, and if it's like addressed in the appropriate way, it can turn out great for everyone involved. And I think that's a really nice like storyline to have, especially in a show like this. And then for some reason, I think this is not in the Japanese, Tuxedo at the very end is like,
"So, Sailor Scouts, guess we'll settle the business of the Imperium crystals later."
First of all, there's only one.
Oh.
Mistake. And then second of all, it felt really like, I just got to remind you that there's a story going on. Bye.
Yeah.
I don't know. Was that in the Japanese?
No.
Yeah, okay. So there was a little funniness with that. And then, yeah, like you said, we get the fun part at the end with the hot springs and all of that. Let's do the Sailor Says next. And then we usually rate the episode first, don't we? Let's rate the episode.
Moonstar, a Sailor Moon podcast, will return after these messages. And now, more Moonstar, a Sailor Moon podcast.
Oh, Serena!
Answer us, honey!
Serena! Oh, I hope she's okay. I shouldn't have been so mean to her all the time. That's for sure. Serena! Mom, Dad!
Serena!
Oh!
I was so worried about you.
I'm sorry. Oh, I sure have a great family. Mom and Dad are always there for me. And Sammy? Well, everyone's gotta have some irritation in their life. Oh, I've got way cool friends, too.
Check out the moon.
We may fight sometimes, especially Ray and me, but we're solid when it counts, really solid.
Hey, Earth to Serena. Hey, why so pensive? What are you thinking about?
Oh, lots of things. I was just thinking, I hope I never get so jealous I turned into some creeped out monster. I mean, that'd be totally bad. I mean, way harsh. Oh, we'll make sure of that.
That's for sure. But just in case, better take a dunk in the hot springs.
It's essential.
Let's rate the episode.
I'd give it a 3, I guess.
Okay, why 3?
Just the fact that it's not a great animator, and I don't mind it's a filler again, but I don't know. Like, this episode's fine, but for me, it doesn't rate very high in terms of other, like, anime original episodes for the original series.
Fair enough. I give it probably a 4.5. I'm a lot higher on this one. I have a nostalgic connection to it. I have a personal connection to her family. For me, again, growing up where I did and where I live, I do not have seasons. So the only chance I have to see like real autumn or anything is through media, and anytime that happens, it gets an elevated bonus for me. Same thing with like winter stuff. And then I just thought that the whole storyline was so sweet and interesting. I enjoyed that they included real lore in the original version, so it gets bonus points for that. And then I actually really love the way the battle goes down. Even I rate it, I couldn't give it 5 stars for 2 reasons: the animation, but then also how the girls just come out of nowhere. It's like, what?
Yeah.
So I see that the issues with it, you know what I'm saying? But it just gets some bonus points for me for stuff that is like specific to me, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that your rating is probably fair from an objective point of view. I'm curious what our listeners think of this episode. Would you guys recommend this? When I say, think about it like this. Would you recommend this to a friend if they were going to just watch like a handful of episodes? Would this be one of them?
No.
Let's ask that question. Yeah. I don't think I would either, even though I rated it so high, because it just isn't important enough in the main story. I might recommend it as a single character development episode, though. It depends on how many the person's willing to watch. Let's get into Sailor Says.
Jealousy can be a terrible monster. It can make a really nice person cruel and short-sighted.
Everyone gets jealous sometimes because of something someone else owns, like a brand new bike, or because they're more popular,
Or because they stole someone else's boyfriend. The point is, you can't let things like that eat you alive. Right, there are too many other great things going on. Sailor Moon says, remember!
What do you think of the idea that jealousy can make an otherwise nice person sometimes maybe act out of character, and it happens to everyone at some point, but it's sort of part of growing up, is like learning why that's not effective, why it doesn't serve you to hold on to feelings like that, right? Like, what, we all have our own journey with that. What do you want to say on it?
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's all just dependent on the person, and I guess how old, well, it's, I mean, yeah, it does happen, it does develop, you develop out of it with age, but it also depends on how secure you are and confident you are in your own self. That probably has even more to do with it. Like, for example, a lot of guys that I do things with intimately are in open relationships or in open marriages, and I don't ever, let my feelings get me to be envious of that. Like, the main guy that I've been doing things with lately is in an open marriage, and they're moving out of this area in a year. So, yeah, I think it's just something that you get comfortable with. Don't let it affect you once you get enough, if you're confident enough in yourself, once you're past a certain age, too.
I think there's a lot of true points on that. Like, it is an age thing, but it also, everyone grows up at different rates, you know? So it's not like by 25 you'll be over it. It's kind of like throughout your 20s and 30s, different people will get there, I think, at different points. And there's also different types of jealousy. I think, like, the stuff you're referencing when it comes to romance and sex and all of that, that type of jealousy can be so divisive and so out of control if left unchecked. And people do heinous things over that kind of jealousy. And when you really break it down, that jealousy stems from a lot of different places. My read on it, so I'm not saying this is 100% true, but the way I see it is, we have been told through media for so many years, through things like Disney movies and whatever, that like the appropriate relationship is one person with one person. And if you stray from that, there's something wrong with you. And it's perfectly acceptable for you to feel entitled to that person's body if you're in a relationship throughout the entirety of your relationship, even if that's until they die. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And when you phrase it like that, and when you start looking at it like, wait, why do I feel like I own this other person's body just because we love each other? Like, what if they need something that I don't need? You know what I mean? Like, and what if they can do that and still come home to me and it actually doesn't mean that we're any less committed to each other. And I think that those kind of things develop for different people at different rates. But I think that's kind of, I mean, it's, some people, monogamy is the only option, and I'm not telling you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But I think there are probably a lot more people in the world who don't know that they would be happier in an open situation just yet.
Yeah.
And I think throughout our lifetime, we're going to see the way that, quote, traditional relationships or mainstream relationships continue to change and evolve more towards being more free with each other. I would hope to see that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Moving, just because they mentioned other things like besides relationship stuff, what kind of tools would you give people if they're like maybe on Instagram scrolling and they're getting jealous of people who are posting like, "Ugh, I wish I had that really cool thing," or "I wish I could go on that really cool trip"? What kind of tools could we give to our listeners to help deal with that?
Well, if it's stuff like that, then I don't know, just look at something else, or probably get off your phone for a while and just do something that's completely different, like in the moment.
I'm laughing because it's sort of, people are, I know when it's the correct advice, and that's why when people hear it, they're going to be like, ugh, you know what I mean? But you're right. Like, the answer is, if you find yourself feeling bad from something you're following on Instagram, unfollow it or stop looking at it. You're controlling that. No one is forcing you to look at your phone. You know what I'm saying? That aside, if you're accidentally coming across things and you're struggling with these feelings, I think the easiest tool is to actively work on no longer comparing your situation and yourself to others. And it's one of the hardest things to learn how to do, but it is the best way to address a lot of feelings that are negative that we have, because this is a really common thing. The grass is literally always greener. And it's like, I'm tall and I wish I was short. I know short people who wish they were tall. I wish I had like this, and other people wish they had what I have. And it's just, I've lived long enough to see that literally everyone feels that way at some point or another. And it's kind of like, well, the person you're jealous of, like, for example, when you're tall, you stick out. You know what I mean? Like, I walk through Walmart and like people kind of stare at me sometimes, especially because I wear colorful shirts. So it's just like, I've had people pull out their phone and randomly film me. I don't know what for. And that doesn't feel good, you know? Mm-hmm. So like, yeah, it's nice that I can reach stuff on a high shelf. And I guess it's nice that some people are into taller guys. But sometimes I just want to go to the store and not have people bother me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And like, I don't want to have to wonder why everyone is like turning their head. And not everyone, but like enough people that it's noticeable to me. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's realize whatever you're thinking about, like if it's hair, if it's height, if it's an item, there is some issue with that person is experiencing that you just don't know about. And once you get there, you'll experience that issue, and then you'll be like, oh, boo. And it's kind of like, let's just skip all that, you know, and try to be happy with what you got. I don't know. Is there anything else to add on this? Okay. That also concludes, this is the last episode on the VHS tape field trips. So that is volume 9, which means next week we start the last one, volume 10, for season 1. And I'll describe what that one looks like next time. But I'm going to update the season 1 tapes on the Facebook so you guys can see all those soon. And yeah, do you want to can we do the episode 3 for Card Captors?
Yep.
Okay. So we've already at this point kind of gone through the whole plot, so we don't have to do that. So everyone knows what this week is about. That's it for this week's episode of Moonstar. Thank you guys so much for listening and for coming back to us after we were gone for so long. I really enjoyed this episode a lot, as you heard on the show already, but I'm hoping you guys like this one as much as I do. There are only 3 more episodes left of this arc before we hit the season finale, or the final 3. Because you know how the final 2 are kind of one mega thing, at least in my mind they are. Plus the episode right before that is when we get to go back to the past and get all of this story from the moon and everything. I'm so excited to get into those with you guys. And I'm sorry we had a year off. But again, I have to defend myself and say we are accidentally following the original production schedule by taking random indiscriminate breaks. So I guess what I'm trying to say is you're welcome for our authenticity. But yeah, anyway, if you like what you heard today, please take a second and give us a 5-star review so that more people can hear about the show, or will get recommended, or however. I don't even know how it works. Just, I like stars. Can we have 5, please? Thank you. And honestly, recommend us to a friend, and leave out the part that I struggle with words. Please? Thank you. But yeah, word of mouth, I feel like, is our best friend when it comes to Moonstar. So please share us, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
For more of Chris, you can find him on all platforms at Chris Mayek. That's Chris, Mayek. For more of Alex, you can find him on Instagram at AlexSummersSFE. Be sure to follow the Moonstar, a Sailor Moon podcast Facebook page for exclusive updates and media you can't get anywhere else. You can visit the official Moonstar website at www.moonstarpod.com. Moonstar is brought to you in part by Sailor Moon Video. Shop authentic Sailor Moon VHS and DVDs today at www.sailormoonvideo.com. Use offer code Moonstar to save 10%. Moonstar, a Sailor Moon podcast, is intended for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. We claim no ownership over any licensed and/or copyrighted audio clips, sound effects, or other materials used during the creation of our show. All audio clips, sound effects, and any other licensed or copyrighted materials used during the creation of this show, or any content created in relation to Moonstar, a Sailor Moon podcast, belong expressly to the license and copyright holders.
Hey, over here, scale face! So I got your attention, huh? How dare you mess with my family! I am Sailor Moon, and there's no way I'm gonna let you hurt the people I really love. On behalf of the moon, I'll punish you! Oh, Tuxedo Mask! You saved me again! So somewhere inside you still really care for me?
I'll take care of that.
Oh, Sailor Moon! Venus! Crescent Beam Smash! Jupiter! Sister Sludge!
And she's very evil and extremely strong, but she's definitely not from the Negaverse.
You're right, Sailor Mars. It's all my fault.
I call upon the power of love! Fireballs! Charge! Check this out, swamp trash! Mars fire!
Cool!
Now, Sailor Moon!
Oh, yeah, right.
I'm myself again. Oh, thank you.
Finally, she's free of all that jealousy. Totally amazing. Isn't she pretty?
Beautiful.
You freed me. Thank you. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Good luck.